What makes for a great presidential speech? Did Barack Obama's victory speech last night live up to the enormity of the moment? Here with some analysis is Jason DeSanto. He is a senior lecturer at Northwestern University and has written both victory and concession speeches for candidates such as Dan Hines and Bill Foster. Jason, welcome to Chicago tonight.
Thank you, Phil.
First of all, Cold Stone reaction to the speech last night.
I thought it was a very effective speech, an understated speech, but a very effective speech using a lot of the themes and techniques that Obama has been using as far back as we've all been watching him.
And in an acceptance speech, what are the goals that a speaker has?
Well, the goal in any good speech, Phil, is to really ultimately provide meaning to the situation. Why are we here? What does it mean that we won? What does it mean having won, what we're going to do next? And he accomplished all those things, as he usually does. In fact, if you look at Obama's speeches, he's very good at providing that meaning really in the first paragraph of the speech, and he did that last night.
Well, we have several clips from the speech last night, and let's take a look at the first one.
It grew strength from the young people who rejected the myth of their generation's apathy, who left their homes and their families for jobs that offered little pay and less sleep. It drew strength from the not-so-young people who braved the bitter cold and scorching heat to knock on doors of perfect strangers, and from the millions of Americans who volunteered and organized and proved that more than 2 centuries later, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people has not perished from the earth. This is your victory.
He was talking about the people who helped make his success possible. Your reactions to some of the rhetoric in that clip?
We expect in a concession speech or a victory speech for the speaker to thank the people who've worked for him. That's a tribute, and that's what he's done there. What was interesting about that is he cast what they had done in larger terms, actually in terms brought to us by Lincoln, of, by, and for the people. And then later on in the speech, he also echoed some themes from Martin Luther King, getting to the mountaintop and being able to make progress as people, and also some themes from JFK, renewing our patriotism. So it was a very interesting speech for using those tactics and wrapping people's efforts into those tactics.
You know, I've talked to some people who were there last night, and they said that after the speech was over, they walked away not like jubilant, but sort of like reflective, happy, but sort of reflective. Was it a somber speech, would you say?
I don't think it was a somber speech, but I had very much the same reaction. I was seated very far in the back in Grant Park. And at the end of it, people did sort of turn and kind of trail off. And I'd really never seen that before. And I think it was simply the enormity of the moment. And as it came to the end of the speech, he consistently has said, yes, we can. But he almost said it at the end as if to say, yes, we can, and we better. We've got a lot ahead of us.
Let's take a look at another clip from last night's victory speech.
To those who would tear the world down, we will defeat you. To those who seek peace and security, we support you. And to all those who have wondered if America's beacon still burns as bright, tonight we proved once more that the true strength of our nation comes not from the might of our arms or the scale of our wealth, but from the enduring power of our ideals: democracy, liberty, opportunity, and unyielding hope.
Democracy, liberty, opportunity, buzzwords, not accidental, I would imagine.
Statements of values. That's a way for a speaker to be able to persuade people who might not ordinarily agree with him. And there are different audiences that are listening. That clip right there was addressed to people around the world who are listening, but also to people at home who want to know what Barack Obama is about. And those values are values that apply to people on either side of the political spectrum.
Before Obama gave his victory speech, of course, John McCain gave his concession speech. And let's take a look at a clip from that.
America today is a world away from the cruel and prideful bigotry of that time. There is no better evidence of this than the election of an African American to the presidency of the United States. Let there be no reason now. Let there be no reason now for any American to fail to cherish their citizenship in this, the greatest nation on earth.
Your reaction to John McCain's concession speech?
I thought it was graceful. We expect concession speeches to have gratitude, to strike tones of unity, but this wasn't paint by numbers. It gave us a clear idea who John McCain was as a public servant. And really that was the clear sense we had walking away from it. That was very striking because last night there were 2 candidates. They both knew the enormity of the conclusion in terms of race in this country, but only one mentioned it, and it was John McCain.
So many people have said today, just in conversation, that this John McCain was so different from the John McCain on the campaign. Why?
An oft-heard refrain after concession speeches.
Al Gore, for example, his concession
Right.
speech seemed so heartfelt and so
Right,
engaging.
Right, I called President Bush, and this time I promised not to call him back. That's what Al Gore said when he came out to finally concede. And that happens a lot after concession speeches, whether it's simply the unburdening of a candidate after so much and simply saying, I'm not going to be handled anymore. They seem to be more at ease. That was a man at ease last night, not like the guy we saw in the debates.
Let's take one more. We have one more clip from last night's speech by Barack Obama, and here it is.
Ann Nixon Cooper is 106 years old. She was born just a generation past slavery, a time when there were no cars on the road or planes in the sky, when someone like her couldn't vote for two reasons: because she was a woman and because of the color of her skin. And tonight, I think about all that she's seen throughout her century in America: the heartache and the hope, the struggle and the progress, the times we were told that we can't, and the people who pressed on with that American creed, yes, we can.
Yes, we can. He repeated that several times during that section of the speech, and then the crowd started repeating it after him.
Yes.
That as a rhetorical device.
Well, he's been using it for a few years. We also know that Deval Patrick, who is another client of David Axelrod's, also used it in the Massachusetts governor's race. It is an embracing, unifying rhetoric. Obama is the master of that. And that story, actually, that narrative is an embracing, unifying story. It's about a woman, but he's asking us to see our country through her eyes, because we all share that history that she's lived. That's very unifying.
There were a couple of cosmetic things that I couldn't help but notice. For example, the lectern, there was no presidential seal, no logo of any kind. And also, reports are that Barack Obama, personally canceled the fireworks that were planned for afterwards. Your reaction to both of those, the podium and the fireworks?
Not much is done on that campaign or by Barack Obama by chance, I suspect. And I think the decision is simply an understanding of living in very serious times right now. This is the first speech during a tough economic time and sending a message around the world. His words ricochet around the world. The symbols do as well. Maybe not a time for celebration as much for a taking of stock and a call to continue to do something more.
All right. Jason, thank you so much for being here. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil.